Okay, great. All right, it is 6:30, so we'll call to order this meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee for February 4th, 2025. Bill, would you do the roll call, please?
Canairo,
Here.
Lorman,
Here.
Jackson currently absent, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, great. First item of business is approval of the minutes of our January 21st, 2024 Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. Any corrections, comments? Hearing none, the minutes of the January 21st, 2025, Finance and Personnel Committee meeting are accepted as drafted. Moving on to the audit of the bills, Bill Burns sent around this afternoon a couple of extras. Do you want to go through these, Bill?
Yeah, most of the additional items that were sent out today are for the tax increment agreement payments based on the first installment of taxes collected. So we've gone through and verified taxes paid for the first installment and then amounts due under those TIF agreements. That represents $2,827,202.48. And then there are three additional accounts payable items charged to four different accounts. Two of them are invoices from US Bank for custodial account fees, paying agent fees, and then the monthly navigation easement payment split between the TIF and the airport. Total is $2,845,205.25.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the audit of the bills reflecting the amounts Bill just walked us through?
I will make that motion.
I will second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to resolutions, we have two. City attorney review and approval on any of these? Not on the resolution.
Not on the resolutions,
Okay.
no, just on two of
On
the
two.
agreements.
Okay. All right, when we get to that, I'll ask you for those. Okay, so the first item is, or first resolution is Resolution 2025-08, declaring intent for assessments for Parmenter Street reconstruction. And this comes to us from Public Works Committee.
Lorman will second that
Or move it.
or move it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I will second
Yeah,
it.
fine, move it. Yeah.
I will
Sorry,
second
sorry.
it. Okay. Any discussion?
Discussion was minimal during Public Works on this. We have a lot to say. We pretty much accepted everything as it was presented by the city. And acknowledged that this assessment is probably a little bit heavier on the people along that area than other types of projects. So the I guess as the language reflects, allowing a little bit longer time for them to, if they desire, of course, to pay it off. Noting that they may elect to do that, but they will be paying interest. So,
Okay. Any idea of what the assessments might look like? Because I was wondering the same thing. This is a really expensive road project, but certainly they're not going to pay for the entire thing.
I did get some numbers today, and they range pretty widely from a few $1,000s up to, I think the highest one was $60,000.
Thank you for that. All right. If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-08, declaring intent for assessments for Parmenter Street reconstruction, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next one is Resolution 2025-09, authorizing the reappropriation of 2024 Capital Project Fund carryover to 2025 and related budget adjustments. And just a reminder, the motions for this one should take the form of recommend that council approve.
okay. So then I will make a motion, recommend the resolution 2025-9 reauthorization and reappropriation of the 2024 capital project funding carryover to 2025.
And I will second that. Thank you. Okay, any discussion? Bill, can you comment today on the question I asked you just for public benefit? So with the current administration, the with the uncertainty stemming from the current administration's actions, recent actions on federal funding, your memo indicates that we don't know what's going to happen with the federal funds we're waiting for. Are any of our pending revenues from the county or the state likewise uncertain if they were based on, or if they're receiving federal funds for those?
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty right now for the specific revenues that are listed in the memo for a total of 163,000. We don't anticipate that any of those would be directly impacted by a federal funding freeze or pause, as those are funds that would be coming directly from Dane County or from state of Wisconsin. What we don't know is if the county or the state are impacted by a freeze of their federal funds, if that could have a ripple effect and jeopardize other funding that they would be passing forward. There are also other city projects, notably some of our FEMA reimbursements that we're still going through, other federally funded sustainability grants that could be subject to a federal funding pause or change. Current status right now is that there is a stay on the enforcement of the original pause, and the original memo that came off from the Office of Management and Budget was rescinded. However, there is still a lot of uncertainty in the future, and that's part of the recommendation that we hold off on allocating the remaining 223,000 and just keep that as an unallocated reserve to give us more flexibility if there are changes in the future.
Thank you. And then also for Brian, is there any effort going on right now, like a group effort to reach out to our congressional delegation, our senators, and try to get them to intercede?
Yes, they're individually within Dane County, the various municipalities are on their own contacting Pocane's office as an example to convey that message. We've done the same, laying out the concerns, basically the bill laid out with our funding in areas where we believe it may be impacted given the broad language from the memo before it was rescinded. I don't believe the DCVVA is organizing anything, but I believe there was some chatter for Wisconsin, League of Wisconsin Municipalities, that they're looking to do the same. So we'll stay in contact with them and pass our information up as to how we may be impacted so they can help pass that message along.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but today someone brought up the congressional earmark for the Grayburg Greenway project, and that's, I think, should be okay, but again, in a normal world, it would be, but who knows? Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions?
Nope. Just, but what I'm hearing, I work for a state agency.
Yeah.
The sentiments of uncertainty seem to obviously be everywhere, even through my organization, institution. Pretty much reflect our conversation tonight.
Yeah.
And taking us.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving resolution or recommending that council approve resolution 2025-09, authorizing the reappropriation of 2024 capital project fund carryover to 2025 and related budget adjustments, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to agreements and contracts, we have 7. And I know that one of them, number 7, the agreement with Parkitecture is contingent upon city attorney satisfaction. Which other ones?
7, 5, and 3.
5 and 3. Okay. When we get to those, we'll do that. Okay. So the first one is the agreements with CGC, Gestra, and SES for annual testing services. And this comes to us from the Public Works Committee.
Sure, I make a motion that we recommend the agreement with the CGC, Gestra, I guess, and SES for annual testing services. Again, Public Works was a business as usual conversation.
Okay. And I'll second that motion. I have a question, Sean. Thank you. So on page 22 of the packet, it looks like it'll be a maximum of 75,000 available for each of these.
Yeah, I think we, in the past few years, just set that as sort of working limit. I don't think we've ever gotten anywhere close. to that.
Okay. That was going to be my next contract or question. Under these contracts, how much do we typically spend? But I don't need an exact number. Your comment right there is sufficient.
On red.
And then seeing that they have different rates, sometimes significantly different rates for different activities. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, do you have to like find the most economical of the three to do a particular task, or does it pretty much even out in the end?
I think it's more the latter. And so what we've tried to do is identify a firm to work with individual projects and so that they're all in some way engaged. I know in the past we were more concerned with trying to marry the firm to a specific tasks, and it ended up really unbalanced to the degree that competition was starting to thin.
Okay.
So, and they're not big ticket items in any case.
All right, thanks for that. Okay, any further comments, questions?
Oh, that was the conversation we had in Public Works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so all those in favor of recommending that council approve the agreements with CGC, Gestra, and SES for annual testing services signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to our second agreement, it's the agreement with the Milligan Studio for commissioning of public art portage sculpture for Lake Street Park, east end of Lake Street. And this comes to us from the Arts Committee and the PRFC.
Okay, I'm looking for a summary so I can read. Should I just read the top of the agreement?
Or do you see the agenda?
Yeah, mine knows.
This one. Sure.
Okay, then I'll make a recommendation for the agreement with the Milligan Studio for commissioning of public art portage sculpture for Lake Street Park, east end of Lake Street.
Yep.
And I'll leave the numbers in.
And I will second that motion. All right, discussion. Can we go to page 33 of the packet?
That's what I was. So
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay, where am I supposed to be?
It's a minor change, but it's paragraph VC. There it is, sale of work. Artist, after the word artist, there should not be a comma.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm wondering, I have some questions if Abby is here. So we will own, we will have the copyright. Does that mean that we could do things like make lapel pins that look like the sculpture?
Under the current proposal, I believe so. We would have full rights. The artist would retain the rights to use it for their promotional materials, but the city would have the full copyright.
Okay, great. And then how much space will this take up? I was looking at the pictures and it did not,
15, 6.
15 by 6, but then there's another picture where it says 15 by 15 to show the span of the fish, the boat. But if I look at the picture showing the park in the background,
It's a fish boat.
that is, I thought it comes the other way. I thought the curve is towards, away from the lake and not towards the lake, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And then they have 4 foot, like.
For the
4
lakes.
by 4.
Okay. Yeah. I was just pulling up the email because we were going back and forth with the artist about this too. So the base of the sculpture is about 4 feet by 4 feet. The three posts are about 8 to 10 inches each. And then I don't know what the height is from grade to the bottom of the canoe, but I know that the total height of the sculpture is about 15 feet. And I think that it was designed so that people can walk beneath it and the canoe would be above them. The purpose was that the direction we had gotten from the city council is to minimize the base, to maximize green space, but to try to have them design a sculpture that could still be visible from the lake side. So that's why they've gone with a very vertical piece that it hopefully is large enough and prominent enough at the top that it would be visible from the lake side.
Okay. And, but this design, because again, I should have driven past the park today. I thought the curvature was away from the lake, not towards the lake as we're seeing there. But if there's both, is that correct?
Oh, you mean like is the?
It
is
is
the,
towards the lake, because the roundabout, is that what you're asking? The curvature
Yeah.
of the,
I guess my question,
the park.
Kylie, is the picture that we were looking at, does that depict what the park actually looks like?
pull it up again. It was a sketch from the artist, so, yes. Yep.
Okay, because I don't remember all the stuff to the left there. That almost looks like, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's,
It's a rough sketch. It doesn't have all the design elements of the actual park
okay,
in there. I would say it's a mix of the design of the park on the upper before the retaining wall, and then everything else was when they went on site and met with us, it was all dirt. So I think they were trying to envision during this process with us. We gave them the design engineer plans and they have a kind of a mix of both.
okay. And you know, what I'm getting at is basically, this will not in any way impede the use of the park for hand launching watercraft, correct?
I would say no, we went out there and measured and then put it on scale on the design. The piece will not overhang, like if any overhang, it would be the stepping stones to a degree, but it won't impede somebody taking their canoe and going down the ramp and getting out to the water.
Okay, good. Will there be signage, and is signage included in the footprint? Like a plaque or something to tell the name and,
Yeah, the Arts Committee they have some pretty discreet plaques that I would say are probably about 10 by 12 that they've been putting on each piece. They have a consistent design. It lists the name of the artist, the name of the piece, when it was installed, and then it has the city's logo. But I don't know if they've discussed the location, but I'm guessing that it would be flush on the metal plate. It's
Okay.
probably the best spot.
okay, and then will there be, the proposal mention the possibility of lighting it at night? Is that something the Arts Committee is recommending? And if so,
Not at this
Okay.
time because it would have to be downlit somehow, which is going to be really difficult. There's not electrical to that center green space right
Okay.
now. We don't want to uplight it because
Yep.
then we're, causing night pollution. It would look really nice to be lit at night, but it will also be really beautiful during the day when the sunlight is shining through the glass because it will reflect on the ground. So that is something to consider, but at this time, we're not proposing any lighting.
okay. And will there be a security camera on this to monitor it? Because I'm thinking of one of the first things I remember having to deal with as a council member was the bullet holes in the self-made man sculpture. And I'm wondering, is this something that is a concern for the Arts Committee?
I mean, vandalism is always a concern, but I don't think that we have a budget in place right now because I think in order to have a security camera, we probably would also need some internet access out there, I'm guessing. So at this time, we don't have any funding for that.
Okay, let's hope somebody's got Ring doorbell cameras that are trained on it. And then Public Works, did the Public Works Department or the committee approve the placement of this?
Public Works did not review this sculpture.
Okay. Is there a need for that, given any, because I know the original idea of doing something near the Conservancy didn't work because of concerns about placing it above utilities of some kind.
Right.
Yeah, so so this is away from utilities. The nearest thing would be a storm sewer inlet, but it's pretty shallow.
Okay.
And if as long as it doesn't overhang the curb line, we should be just fine here.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then the source of funds is the 0.5% for arts, and that's a 2 years of that for
Correct.
24 and 25.
I'm pretty sure, or is it 23 and 24? I think it's 23 and 24 funding.
I know it includes 24. I would have to go back and look. You might be right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was 23 and 24 because we started this project with this budget amount in the middle of last year when we were looking at the Parmenter Street location.
Okay.
So I believe that this is 23 and 24. There would be a new allocation of funding in 20.
Okay, well, we can confirm that at some point. All right, thank you. Any further questions for Abby about this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Oh,
actually,
I'm sorry, go.
I just think I mentioned, I just wanted to point out here, the way the contract is drafted, there certainly are a lot of potential details about how this is going to be that are baked into what Exhibit A is. And Exhibit A isn't necessarily part of the agreement that's been drafted. I'm not sure if the plan is to use what was sent, but when you get into issues of height and size and placement, those are probably all details that should be, make sure we actually address that as Exhibit A. So maybe this is an agreement that maybe should be subject to final city attorney approval, since we don't necessarily have a complete final Exhibit A.
Okay. Since we can't do friendly amendments, but since friendly amendments have come up, I did my research and I can,
Or just retract mine and redo it.
well, no, I could do
Oh.
that, but I can also say, there being no objection by unanimous consent, we will make this agreement or this motion contingent on city attorney review and approval. All right. Okay, so all those in favor of approving that the common council, all those in favor of recommending that the council approve the agreement with the Milligan Studio for commissioning of public art portage sculpture for Lake Street Park East End of Lake Street, contingent upon city attorney review and approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Right, the ayes have it. Moving on to number 3, and this one should be contingent, the motion should be contingent upon city attorney review and approval. And I believe the amount not to exceed should be 22,400 to not just 22,000. So would somebody like to
Sure, so the motion would be
recommend that
recommend the
council?
council to the 2025 water management agreement with Caracal Aquatics Resource Incorporated for Bauman Community Pool, not to exceed $22,000, subject to city attorney approval.
Close, 22,400.
Oh,
I know
sorry.
it says 22,000, but there's a 4.
22,400. Thank you.
Yep, okay. So the motion is to recommend that council approve the 2025 water management agreement with Caracal Aquatics Resources, Inc. for the Bauman Community Pool in an amount not to exceed $22,400, subject to city attorney review and approval. Can I get a second for that?
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Actually, no, that was it. Okay. All right. So all those in favor of recommending that council approve the 2025 water management agreement with Caracal Aquatics Resources, Inc. for the Bauman Community Pool in an amount not to exceed $22,400, subject to city attorney review and approval, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to number 4, this is a 2025 agreement with Middleton Gators Swim and Dive, Inc. for use of the Bauman Community Pool, and this comes to us from the PRFC.
This one is not subject to city.
Correct.
Oh, okay, so recommend the agreement of 2025 with Middleton Gator Swim and Dive Inc. for the use of the Ballman Community Pool. And
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Thank you. All right, discussion. I just wanted to thank Kylie for changing the wording about the content. Last year, I think it was the content of amplified sound should value diversity and respect for others, which is great, but really hard to monitor and enforce. So I appreciate the change in the wording to be more positive and clear. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending that council approve the 2025 agreement with Middleton Gators Swim and Dive, Inc. for use of the Bauman Community Pool signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to number 5, and this one is subject to city attorney review and approval. And it's the award of professional services agreement to Blue Stem Forestry Consultants for completion of street tree inventory in an amount not to exceed $34,769.
sure, so I'll make a motion for the award of professional services agreement to Bluestein Forest Consulting for completion of the street tree inventory, and subject to city attorney approval
In an amount.
in the amount of $34,769.
Okay, thank you.
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending that council approve the award of professional services agreement to Blue Stem Forestry Consultants for completion of street tree inventory, subject to city attorney review and approval in an amount not to exceed $34,769, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to number 6, it's the agreement with Middleton Cross Plains Area School District for the School Resource Officer Program for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation of their agreement with the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District for the School Resource Officer Program for the 2025-2026 school year, and the fiscal impact $90,000 approximately.
Okay.
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the agreement or recommend that council approve the agreement with the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District for the School Resource Officer Program for the 2025-2026 school year at an anticipated fiscal impact of $90,000. Yes.
As we mentioned, the ag materials is only for the two existing FRL offers. There will be a amendment to this agreement that will later date for alternatives. That's not going to be the other visuals.
Great. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending that council approve the agreement with Middleton Cross Plains Area School District for the School Resource Office Program for the 2025-2026 school year with an estimated fiscal impact of $90,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to our final agreement, and this one is contingent upon city attorney. I'll read what was in the memo. Contingent upon city attorney's satisfaction of the agreement form and at a cost not to exceed $15,160. So it's the agreement with Architecture and Planning LLC for design engineering services for Penny Klein and Firefighters Memorial Park ADA improvements, and this comes to us from the PRFC.
Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation to the agreement with the Architecture plus Planning LLC for design engineering services for the Penny Klein and Firefighters Memorial Park ADA improvements. Fiscal impact of $15,160, subject to city attorney approval.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to second that?
This is Jackson. I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I have some questions and comments. On page 85 of the packet, there's a typo in the name Penny Klein in the first whereas, Penny Kellen Park. And then also, as I read this, I was expecting to come upon a second agreement that addressed the firefighters memorial park. Because despite the title in this one, if you scroll through the document, there's no mention of firefighters memorial park. It does talk about like paragraph B under scope of services says related to the Penny Klein Park ADA improvements. But if you search for the word memorial to see what does it say about the firefighters memorial park, there's nothing in here about that. Compensation as well on page 88, the structure, it specifically mentions the Penny Klein Park ADA improvements, but it doesn't mention the firefighters memorial park. So I don't know if this is half of the project or if they just need to change the agreement to make sure they're mentioning both.
Yep, that is a good catch. Thank you for that. It is for both parks and both our three areas, 2 in Penny Klein, for Adler Field and for the 8 soccer fields, and then also for the soccer stadium and firefighters memorial park that will be assessed. That budget amount is for all 3 areas, so we just have to update the language to include firefighters memorial park. We started with Penny Klein and then we added on that section. So
Okay. And you're not anticipating it's going to be more than the 15,000? Okay,
no,
good. So good thing this one is subject to city attorney review and approval because you can work all that in then. Okay. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to that council approve the agreement with Parkitecture and Planning LLC for design engineering services for Penny Klein and Firefighters Memorial Park ADA improvements at a cost not to exceed $15,160 contingent upon city attorney review and approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, the ayes have it. That was our last agreement, so we'll move on to miscellaneous, which is the update on fourth quarter 2024 investment reports. Bill, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. This is informational, no action needed. Wanted to provide an update and then be able to answer any questions. Included in the packet are the investment reports for fourth quarter for October, November, December. I have the first page of the December report up on the screen. Over the last year, we've seen interest rates start to decline generally over the second half of the year. Total reduction in short-term interest rates over the year was about 1 full percent, with the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates that had been at about 5.25% to around 4.25%. We've seen the 90-day Treasury bill follow that and starting to see the local government investment pool decline as well. Overall yield on the city's portfolio has remained relatively constant, ending the year at 4.07 for a weighted average yield. Part of that is that we have additional funds from tax collection that we've been able to invest at the state investment pool and other short-term investments that are earning pretty well. Also, because of those tax collection funds, our balance is larger than typical at year end with a balance of about $98 million. I do expect that that's going to be coming down to closer to the $70 to $75 million range after we get through our tax collection settlements. As far as our approach, we're continuing to focus the majority of the portfolio on the 1 to 2 year time frame. That is in recognition of the projects that we have ongoing, as well as the pending closure of TIF District Number 3. And we're anticipating that over the next 2 years, we'll be having additional payouts to pay off remaining balances on TIF bonds, as well as we move towards closure of the district, we'll have residual balances to pay to the other taxing jurisdictions. We are continuing to invest a portion of the portfolio up to a maximum of 5 years and trying to lock in relatively high interest rates in this environment as we can. And then keeping the other funds invested at the best return that we can while still maintaining our safety and liquidity of the portfolio. We also are continuing to maintain a diversification of the portfolio, both with type of investment as well as the institutions where they're placed. And that's reflected in both the table as well as the pie chart here showing the makeup of the city's portfolio. Pages 2 and 3 are listing of individual investments within the city's portfolio. I think with that, that really sums up where we are right now. We'll be continuing to review investments as they mature, look at our cash flow, and invest them to the longest maturity that we can, consistent with our cash flow projections. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Any questions for Bill? No? All right. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
And with that, we've reached the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned.